Rob Hope is an incredible designer and maker, and I like to refer to Rob as one of the OGs of the internet. I've been inspired by his work for quite a long time. Very excited to have this conversation with him. So, just to get started, Rob, could you just give us a quick intro and let us know what you do?
Okay, Darshan, I'm just going to start up front while we got a few people here just to say it would be insensitive not to bring up what's happening in India right now. Obviously, your friends and family are there.
Yeah.
So I just want to say we're thinking about them for sure. I know sometimes things get flooded online. And to just flood promo, watch my stuff, buy my ebook, it's insensitive. So I wanted to bring that up. But yeah, back to me is that, yeah, I'm sitting here in Cape Town, South Africa, just working online, working on side projects, trying to stay motivated. I'm dabbling in lots of different areas on the internet, but I can safely say that every single day I can wake up and I'm very excited to experiment and just interact with people around the world like yourself, just in a category we're in, which is basically design, development, making. And recently I've started to niche out into landing pages. With the experience I've got, I feel like I'm in a good position to offer up some hot tips.
Yeah, that's amazing, mate. And I think you were doing all of these things before it was cool. Right now, we have this category of makers and creators, and also a lot of designers trying to make products because no code has made it possible for a lot of people, for people like me as well. But you have been doing it right from the very beginning. I think you've been working on this project for more than 11 years, right? If I got the number correct.
Yes. So my main project is One Page Love, and it's a website where I curate and I collect references to very good looking and strong one page websites. You can call these landing pages. We can get into that in a bit. But basically, in 2008, I started collecting references to single page websites on a very badly designed WordPress website. And we can get into why I decided this just now. But basically, almost every day since 2008, so we're talking 12, 13 years here, I've been adding references. Every time I'd see one, I'd collect them. It's gotten to the stage now where they become more popular. And now people submit them and I go through the links and I'm saying, that's a good one. That's a good one. We add it to the collection. But here we are, 8,000 references later, all added by me. And yeah, I took the leap from doing freelance and now I work on this full time through a lot of experimenting and dabbling with different income channels, affiliate income, advertising, you name it, through a lot of failing. I'm just going to just hammer down that word. I'm going to say it one more time, failing. I got to where I am now, where I have the ultimate freedom on working on my side projects full time. So I'm very proud of it, but it took a lot of work.
And also, just a quick shout out. Back when I was in engineering, I was always very interested in design and enjoy the journey. Yeah, that's right. So I was the way that I taught myself design was by looking at all of these resources on the internet, referring to different websites. And there were two standout websites for me, which I took a lot of inspiration from. One of them was awards. I
Mm.
think a lot of people might be aware of that. A directory where all the best websites get showcased. And the other one was One Page Love. And also
Lovely.
you had also started featuring some free templates on One Page Love, and I used to download some of them. And I used to think of myself as a hacky tacky designer who would take things online and try to make a website, try to make customized websites out of it. So it has been instrumental in me becoming a designer professionally. So thanks a lot for that.
Brilliant. It's really interesting that I have a sea of traffic coming from India every single day that are after those templates. So I don't know what's happening there, but people want those templates, especially those free templates. So I think basically they maybe take them and mock them up and then send them to clients. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a huge chunk of traffic. I need to check it. I haven't researched that beforehand, but basically people come to One Page Love every month. And a lot of the traffic is organic search results. So about 69, 70% of the traffic of that 150,000 Google. And the majority of that traffic are people looking for one page templates. And there's a huge amount from Europe and US, but India, big dark mark on that map. Yeah, I'm stoked. And I've interacted with so many people from India from the years since 2008. Just people like, hey, I need a template for this. And I go back and forward. And then we start speaking about cricket. And then I start speaking about run rates. And we go so deep. And next thing I'm best friends with someone after a website template.
Yeah, coming from India, I can actually tell you what's happening over there. So India is more like a freemium economy. It's
Okay.
not like Indians don't like to pay for stuff, but people, they always need a quick start. People are always looking to get started with free resources because, to be honest, not a lot of us are in a very privileged position.
Of
So
course.
finding stuff online which is free that you can use to maybe create some work or maybe even make money from that, people are always going to look for that. And this it's also one of the reasons why you see e-commerce websites, they're always offering so many discounts and promos, and people have this tendency that if they don't see a discount on a product, they would
Mm.
actually they would think that it's not worth buying, because it's just the common mindset that people have there. Everything has to be discounted, and even if it's not, we are very good at bargaining stuff. We can always get you a great deal.
Brilliant. I'm jumping the gun here, but I have to mention is that I introduced parity pricing on my ebook for people in countries like India, and I have the same pricing for South Africa because we also have a weak currency compared to the US dollar.
Yeah.
And it was just one of the greatest things I've ever done because yeah, maybe they're trying to get a discount. And it's interesting because I mentioned there on the Gumroad product page for the ebook, there is parity pricing. Just let me know where you're from. And everyone's, yeah, I'm from India. I'd love a discount. Oh, you got a discount? What's the Indian discount? And so then we get going. And I promise you, almost every single one of them, I start speaking about Sash and Tendulkar. And we talk about them. They're like, hey, what happened to Amla? Why, like what happened? And like, why is AB not playing for the South African side? And then it becomes just such a wonderful exchange. But I want to just say is that parity pricing for your product, it's about the conversation. Of course, you can't offer discounts for certain products, especially SaaS services where you have to support that user with your team that you're paying salary. But an ebook where it's a build once, sell twice, there's hardly any support, I'd highly encourage just giving a massive discount. So my discount for India is 70% off. So you can get the ebook for $14. So yeah, anyway, it's just, I would highly recommend it, but we can get there in a bit.
Yeah, and talking about discounts, Rob has also generously offered a 40% discount on his ebook. I'm going to just quickly share the link in the chat. So you can get his ebook about landing page hot tips for 40% off. And also, you touched upon a very interesting topic here, which is parity pricing. I've seen a lot of makers are now offering parity pricing on a lot of their products, and I think we don't really have a platform or a service which allows you to put that parity pricing. I think it's actually an opportunity that people can build a product around that, which would help other makers to sell their products with parity pricing. So makers in the stream, great opportunity for you to build something.
Yeah, they just two things there quick is that it's not that easy for someone who doesn't know code to just integrate parity pricing, so to speak. But you do have text fields in your products. You do have the descriptions, and you can literally just say that email me if you're struggling with work, if you've just lost your job, if you're affected by COVID, and you will get that conversation going through that. Secondly, is that there is someone, I made Danny Postma, he's currently in Bali. He created paritybar.com, and that is, you need to know a little bit of code if I'm not mistaken, but paritybar.com is a good way to just plug that in, and then it uses detection where you are. You get to set, hey, South Africans get this percent, Indians get this percent, and maybe even in countries that aren't doing that badly compared to the US dollar, but you can set it like 20%, etc.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And if nothing else, as you mentioned, it's a great conversation starter. At least do parity pricing for the sake of conversations. It's going to
I'm
open
serious.
up a lot of interesting conversations. Yeah, also, let us talk about your very recent product, landing page hot tips. I've been reading it in different formats. Could you just quickly tell us what landing page hot tips is and why did you even create it?
Okay. Through One Page Love since 2008, my niche is single page websites. So that's a website that has one objective. You arrive and it's saying, hey, download my icon pack, or hey, I'm an illustrator, and it's got just 5 pictures of your best illustrations and then the contact details. It's a push for simplicity. It's just identifying that people actually, their attention spans are just decreasing online. So you arrive on mobile, you see the best 5 photos, and then you just contact them. And that's the beauty of a one-page website. It's just getting straight to the point, no clutter, no noise. So I was attracted to this in 2008. And the reason why I started this website is because I couldn't find enough references to single page websites. So what do you do as a maker? This is a classic takeaway, is that if you can't find what you're looking for, you build it yourself. So I started off very light. I just started collecting references. And what these did is that these convinced my freelance clients what was possible. So I used to say, okay, you've got a product or a service, like a photography business. are you sure you want a 7-page website and all these things? And forget about blog. That's another conversation now. But
Yeah.
you can get it all done in one page and quite gracefully and with style. And I'm going to show you, here's 7 references to beautiful one-page websites. And yeah, so it just happened and the trend took off. I think it just took off because of the attention spans going down. People just want people to get to the point. So I started collecting these sites and eventually I started curating them. So that's the big takeaway here, is that I had to start choosing them over time because of the sea of submissions coming in, and there was just more and more one-page websites. And through curation, you landed up inspecting them. Why is this a good one-page website? Is the design good? You inspect the code. Is this reusing a template? Did they custom code this themselves? Who is their audience? Is this landing page or this one-page website actually solving a problem for them? Is it noisy? So on. So anyway, I just used to inspect them. And then the big takeaway here is that I used to ask myself, one page loves getting traffic, but how can we increase the traffic every month and get retained visitors and eventually monetize this thing to quit freelance? Because we've got some traction here. Traffic's increasing. The answer to that, and it's the answer to all your projects, is that you need to ask, how can I add value? How can I add more value? So what I did in 2008 was a link. Then in 2009, it's a little screenshot. 2010, you start adding tags. So the search is a bit better. And it fast forward to 2021, and now we've got retina optimized long screenshots. I write a custom review on what's noteworthy. I try tag things smarter with what people are searching with. And where I'm getting at is that I had to inspect almost every single one of these 8,000 websites and saying, wow, this one's using drop shadows. This one's actually got an in-page demo to try and showcase this product. It's actually trying to sell an iPhone app, but within the landing page, it's showing you, it's got a little thing bouncing around the page, picking up different colors, and it's actually changing the interface within the iPhone app. And this is showcasing you how the iPhone app is actually a color picker. And I'm like, that is genius. So I would just highlight those more and I would share those more, make little videos about them. It organically got to the stage where I started to know a very good landing page, started building them myself, started to give feedback on them as a little service. My feedback, I would start getting replies. Hey, I implemented your bit of feedback and it helped. Some people, that didn't help, but this is years and years and years. It actually got to the stage where I did, take the leap and I did work on One Page Love full time. And I asked myself, what's next for me? And naturally what was next for me was to make an online course on just how to create a great landing page. So I started writing this behind the scenes and just making notes, collecting, overthinking it. Like all of our makers out there, I'm trying to make the best, course ever. And I thought, wow, this is overwhelming and I've lost control of it. And I'm actually targeting too many people, beginners, intermediate, advanced. It's just so much content. I was writing it in Trello, and every time I opened the Trello board, I was just so overwhelmed. It's just screenshots, like hundreds of them, links, notes. Someone would drop some landing page content. I would just dump it in there. I'm like, oh, boy, there's so much to get through. So I said, how can I be accountable? The takeaway, how do you be accountable? And I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to extract out my notes and I'm going to take all that Trello nonsense and I'm going to distill it into beautiful, snackable tips. But I'm going to do 100 in 100 days. Very difficult, but I had the content, so I knew I had that backing. But to be accountable, I just announced it and I said, hey, I'm going to do 100 tips in 100 days on Twitter. If Twitter's not your thing, sign up to this email drip and you will get a tip a day, super short, to the point, no selling. And in hindsight, I'm going to get back to that now, but in hindsight, the beauty of what I created is that I spent so much time removing all the fluff out of the lesson that I have an email in the series. You get email number 32 and it's 3 lines. And I get people replying to those in the email drip going, dude, I'm just standing in line at the shop and that was just a perfect little snackable nugget for me. Most of the newsletters I get are just overwhelming. And then I star them and I'm like, I gotta read this later. Everyone can read that email in that go and then archive it forever. So anyway, so what happened is that I was on tip, I think, roughly about 35. And I just kept getting people asking, hey, I'd love all these tips right now. And I hadn't created all 100. I had like jotted down notes and scattered notes in Dropbox paper and IA Writer. And I was like, people are like, can I please buy all these tips? And my answer is just no. No, I haven't got
But
all 100 tips.
that's
And
your validation right there.
oh man, what a golden validation. I'm like, no, I'm doing a course and that will distract me from what I have to do. And that's an online course. So keep going. And then the more people just mailing, more people asking, please. And I'm thinking, wow, that's crazy validation. So I thought, let's see how this goes. Let's test the water here if people really want this thing. So on tip number 50, out of the 100, halfway mark, I talked about, I think the tip was something to do with the countdown timer or adding haste or something like that, where I just said for the next 30 hours, the ebook pre-sale is $30 off. So I made the ebook pricing 49, where we can speak about pricing in a bit, but it was $49. But for the next 30 hours, it's $19. So 30 hours, 30 off. So that also had this little ring to it. And I swear my notifications went like wildfire. It was the craziest moment, because here you are saying no, they saying yes, you're testing the waters, you like, it's like a jackpot for it. But yeah, so I'm stubborn and I'm like, oh, can't believe I have to do this now, like it's a thing. And then at that point you say, okay, validation's there, we're all in. So what you do at that point, you're like, I've got runway now because of obviously the pre-sale and the $19 transactions. And I'm like, cool, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this properly. And I did an audiobook. I did interactive checklists. I team up with a mate to make online checklists where you can go through the thing. I made an online website where you can access this by mobile phone. And I know it's a book, but it's basically an interactive website. And there's so much to say on all this stuff. But I just want to say is that the journey, I pivoted based on what happened. And I still haven't launched this course. I started writing this course 2 years ago, and it's okay because I was creative in this process. I've been interacting with people. The book sold great. So yeah, there's so many takeaways here. But you're saying, what is this hot tips thing? I released a book for 100 landing page hot tips to help strengthen your landing pages. It's everything I've ever learned. I try to condense all the fluff out into just perfect, snackable, actionable tips. And I'm not here to sell this book at all. But what I'm really proud of is I got creative with the formats. I made an audiobook. I built a little blanket cave in my office. It was just fun. So there's another thing. It's like, how can I get more creative? Everything I do is like, how can we experiment? How can we learn? How can we make this not stale? And so I outsourced voices from Fiverr, and I'm like, yeah, that would be cool in audiobook. Jingles, sound effects. So yeah, I got really creative, and what I've created, I'm very proud of.
And what you have created is amazing. Two very interesting things that I think you have done over here. So one, I really like your approach of taking things one at a time. You're constantly iterating on stuff. You did not go all in on it right from the beginning. You started with 100 tips by writing a Twitter thread or making it into a drip campaign. But then later on, as you got feedback, you actually had people knocking on your doors, asking for all the tips and wanting to pay you. And that's when you iteratively started making it into a comprehensive resource. And as and when you received more feedback, it kept on getting better and better. So that's one thing. And the second thing, I think you also did this very smart thing of having the same content been given out in different formats. So it's not just an ebook. It first started with a thread. So people who are always on Twitter, they are going to consume through all of your tips in the thread. People like me, I consume all of your tweets. I'm also a big newsletter person. I send my own newsletter. I subscribe to a lot of newsletter. So obviously you had that tip sent to me, I think, like on a regular basis. So I made sure that I went through all of them. Now, I'm not really a book person. If you give me a book and if you tell me it's the best book in the world, I'm still going to struggle to read even a single chapter of that book. It's just not something
Same.
that works for me. But I absolutely enjoy reading long form blog post or newsletters, and something which is given to me in concise manner, and I would like to read it in chunks. I'm not going to read the whole thing at once because I'm also trying to extract a lot of things from that. And I'm not the kind of person who would pride myself on reading 100 books but not really doing anything from it. So
Totally.
that's a great way. And I also, when I go on runs and when I'm cooking, I'm always listening to podcasts. So, by the way, great shout out to your podcast as well. One of my favorite podcasts, hands down. If you made it
Thank you.
paid podcast, I would actually pay money to listen to your podcast. Anyways, so different formats, and it just works brilliantly because there are other people who would want to read a book. Then you also made it into a Notion resource. Now, Notion is a tool that I use on a regular basis. I actually organize my life into it. I write my regular reviews over there. I also use Notion to run Product Disrupt. So I would put all the numbers, sponsorships, expenses, links, all of that is in Notion. So I'm actually using it regularly. And your your resource is always there. So whenever I open that, I might spend 15 or 20 minutes every time looking at some of your content over there. So it's just a great way for me to consume it. But if you had just given me an ebook, I'm sure I would have not read that. So could you, I mean, let's dive into this a little bit deeper. And so tell me, how did this idea just came to your mind that you wanted to have it in different formats? Because not a lot of people do that. People create something once and then they get over it and they start working on other things. They are not going to have that resource made consumable in different formats, but you took a lot of efforts to do that. And it's not that, and it's not that you just converted it into one format to another. There's a beauty in the format as well. When you see a resource on the Notion, you can have checklist. People can actually use that. When it's in audio, you're going to put in some emotions into it. It's not just about the content. So every format has its own beauty, and you have done an incredible job of doing justice to all of those formats. So let's tell us about your idea of why even create all of
Yeah.
these formats, and how did you go about it?
Thank you very much for the kind words there. Let's say two honest things up front here is that I don't really read that much. It shows in my vocabulary, my writing. I'm the kind of guy who writes a blog post and rewrites it again and then reads it again. And I'm like, wow, that sounds terrible. Preschool English. And when it came to the book, I got the copywriter. That was the first thing I did when I got the pre-sale, the investment up front is just to make it better, make your product better. All investment. When you're listening to an audiobook, you ask yourself, how can I make this better? You spice it up with sound effects. You paid for those. Same with the copywriting. So this is a lesson in itself, is that you ask yourself, how can we reinvest into our product to make the end product better? And often it's to get help from people better than you. And I can't really write that. I definitely have something where I appreciate simple copy though. And then I think that's why people identified me getting to the point. I'm big on decluttering, minimalism, and so on. But I also being creative. And this is a good example, is that I have a Kindle format. And I started working on the Kindle format, and it was just not fun. I didn't feel like I was being creative. It was a chore. So I outsourced it. I'm like, I'm not doing this. But Notion was so fun. So for anyone out there who doesn't know Notion, it's basically productivity software. It's a blend between Trello and Microsoft Word, and they've just done such a great job creating it feels like you can compartmentalize Notion. A good way to summarize Notion is that if you had to dump a course, 18 months of course notes, you can dump it into Notion and organize it in a way when you arrive, it's very categorized. All the notes are hidden behind layers. So you can say, actually, today I just want to talk about the course references when it shows how the frame is, like with the plants here and so on. So I have deep, dark thread on what other course guys are doing, but that's my research and it's dumped into Notion. Screenshots, links, videos, but it's well deep down the rabbit hole. But on Trello, it's just, I arrive there and I see those little thumbnails here. I see these lists, these checklists saying you've only checked 3 out of 400 checks, and I'm going, whoa, this is too crazy. So Notion is what I transported my course into. So it went from IA Writer, Dropbox Paper, Trello, bits and screenshots on the desktop, all into Notion. So once I was in this process and just watching process online, and it just went like this. This is perfect for hot tips because I can make interactive checklists, link between the tips. I can organize the tips in categories, just saying these are just testimonial tips. These are just copywriting tips. These are just design tips. I can embed the audio. I've already done the audiobook, but now I can just embed it in the Notion page. So there were just so many just sparks and ideas that warranted me making a Notion book, so to speak. There's so much we can unpack here. What should we do with our product? And the key takeaway here is like, what kind of product would you want to consume when it came to 100 tips? And I'll be honest, like I said, I don't really read. And to be honest, how many PDFs have you written in your life? Sorry, read in your life? And I don't know if I've maybe read one PDF in my whole life. I've bought about 30. Yeah, I can just see everyone nodding behind the scenes. They know your webcam's on. But the thing is that I almost felt guilty just creating a PDF, a static page that looks terrible on mobile. So I said, you know what? I'm going to create the book that I'd want to read, and it's mobile friendly. I can scroll through it. What's great about the book is that you can read a tip, and if it doesn't really click, you can hit play, and then it's I speak to you back. I can I see the ASMR there. Is that yeah, I can narrate it back to you. And that's a different way to consume it. There's so many ways the tips could go. I feel like we're not at the end yet of this journey. Like right now, we've got interactive, we've got the Twitter thread, we've got the email drip, we've got the PDF, we've got the rich media website that adapts to all phones, we've got Kindle, and we've got Notion. And what's next? And I guess you ask yourself, where do you want this journey to go? It's interesting because I should be working on a course, but if people are still buying these ebooks, people are like, hey, please, can we please have in Portuguese? But it's only a handful of people, Chinese. If 1,000 people ask me for Portuguese version, I'd probably make one. So it's all based on a demand, but at the same time, it's where my motivation lies. And for me to translate the book and actually have to deal with support in different languages, probably something I don't want right now, to be completely honest. So anyway, Apple Watch. What if every single day you just got one tip, free app, and I narrated it to you? There's so many things, and I love being creative with them. YouTube, I've got an idea, and I haven't told anyone the stuff, but what if we had a landing page live stream where it was 24 hours a day, and you literally had to just visit the link, and there was the tip visual with a narration and actual examples. So if you ever just wanted some landing page advice, you just hop on the stream, and then you could just get a snack and then close the tab. But it's just 24 hours streaming on. And these are the things I think about all the time. I'm overthinking it to death. It's sold quite a few ebooks, so it warrants exploring in these areas. So I think, did that answer your question, format? Okay.
Yeah, it answered it perfectly. It seems like your product is going to be omnipresent. No matter what medium you go to, you would be able to consume landing page hot tips. And also, now, since you have gone through this process of creating these different formats, for other makers out there who are also considering translating their resource into different format, is there a particular order that you would follow? So you started with a thread, a email campaign, audiobook, and Notion. So is there a particular order that you would follow, that first just create a book and then try to distill all of that content into different formats? Or what would you start with?
Yeah, I want to just add in there is that should everyone write a book, a PDF? And I've been working online, experimenting with different income streams for a very long time. And there's something so beautiful about a PDF sale. It's just the passiveness of it and the non-support. So I've built WordPress themes. I've had 2 WordPress theme companies, and I've done freelance, and we all know the client game. I'm pretty sure everyone here has got their, clients, and to go away offline and come back and you've made 3 sales of an
Beautiful
ebook,
feeling.
and it's absolute poetry online. And I would highly recommend just dabbling and tasting it and seeing how you feel. But how it works is you obviously want some validation on what you're doing. So we can go deep down this road, but just a light overview is that identify what you like doing, your niche, add value within that niche to those people for as long as you can without asking anything. Try and add that value and that content on as many channels as possible. If you're not good with audio, if you're not good with video, that's fine. You can start adding on Twitter. You can start, but just adding value, get the conversation, be in the conversation. So once you do that over a very long time, you start to be known in your niche, and then you can test the waters. You can say, hey, everyone, I'm starting this. I'm thinking about doing this ebook. Here's a pre-sale. It's literally just the cover, and you don't even have to take credit cards at that point. You can just say notified when it's ready. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it, which is quite cool, is that you just start a newsletter within that niche and just try and add value. And we won't get into newsletters right now, but if you can add value within your niche via email format where people are actually consuming your content and you are saving them time, that's a real kicker here. So like the book, the PDF, the online course, everything is about saving people time, increasing their skills, adding that value. If you can do that within your niche via inbox, you have this direct line to sell to them again. And they trust you. You've just been adding such value. They want to reward you, even just say thanks. But at the end of the day is that there's so much noise out there, and you have just sent 27 weeks in a row of valuable content to their inbox. And then you say, hey, I'm actually writing a guide within this niche, and it's going to be $50 for the next 30 hours. It's $30 off. That's a very good way to validate if people like what you're doing, because at that point you haven't actually invested that much. Obviously, don't forget, you enjoy this content, you're writing this content, it's not the massive chore for yourself. But that for me is like a bit of a bulletproof guide to get going with this. Should everyone do this? What's the first format you do? It's probably a newsletter, because all that content within the newsletter is reusable into your book and so on. But even lighter than that is just social media. So it would go from putting some tweets out into getting people subscribed in the newsletter. And then for now on, Notion has got me, I'm using Notion forever until something else comes along, which is very difficult to imagine. But Notion is where you collect your notes and your links. And at that point, and from what I've seen people creating now, and I've seen the marketplaces, is Notion is going to start taking over. People are making online courses with Notion, their PDFs. People are creating tools. Their API is going to be released, I think, later this year, where there's going to be some magic things happening with Notion. Onboarding, it's going to get huge. I would invest in Notion big time, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, let me also just try to summarize this. So you're saying that people should just create things in the format that they're comfortable in. The idea is to get going. Once you have that, once you have the ball rolling, you're getting feedback, you are getting validation. You can obviously then dive into other formats, but it's not like a one size fits all. You don't really have to create an ebook to start with. Just do something that you're comfortable with.
Exactly that. And PDF is it's pretty low hanging fruit, because you can take a Notion board, just organize your notes, and you can pay someone on Fiverr to say, please put together this in a PDF format. And that won't cost a lot of money at all. And then find a good graphic for the cover on Creative Market, use a funky font, and you're away. And that doesn't have to be your end product. You can keep improving it as well. So it's very low hanging fruit making a PDF. And I feel like the passiveness of it is worth your time.
Yeah, and I can 100% recommend that as well. So I've been trying to I've been trying to create two products. So one is actually, I thought I would create an ebook about how to crack a product design interview, and the idea for it came from me trying to find a job about a year ago, and I had actually done a lot of interviews, and with every interview I'd collected a lot of notes, and I had this resource, and I organized all of those notes into Notion. And at the end of it, I had this vast resource that, which could be helpful to anyone to start preparing for a job interview. And when I posted it online, people said that, yeah, we would definitely want a resource like this. So I thought I would start creating an ebook. But it's been so difficult to create that ebook. And now I'm thinking that since it's all there in Notion, maybe I should drop the idea of creating an ebook first. And I would just try to make this Notion well organized and put all the information in there. And I think it's going to be easier than trying to create a whole new format. And also, I've never created an ebook before. So I think I'm going to follow the method of first trying to get the Notion organized and then go back to the book.
Let's have fun with this quick. Is that you've done the hard work, what it takes. There's a problem out there that other people would love your information. My big one here is that, are you getting a lot out of their comments afterwards saying, thanks so much, Darshan, for helping me? Because that's what I feed on a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But if you're not that passionate about it, it's going to be very difficult for you to keep promoting it in the end. But I feel if it's actually solving problems, then people will talk about it. But you definitely could have a little cheeky landing page with the cover of the book, and you're saying, hey, I'm working on this. Would you like a preview chapter, and get notified when it's ready? So what happens now is that they get a little taste. It's in your writing. It's just a 3-page PDF. And once they've got the email address, it delivers them value. It gives, but you must give them something there, like something very useful that they didn't know. Save them some time again, keyword forever. Save them some time. And then what you do at that point is you basically say, here's the preview chapter. What are you really struggling with in this process? Or what do you like to know? And that is going to just farm the best content for everyone else, basically. So that's just like a little hack you can do, pretty low hanging fruit. Great use of a landing page. You're not asking for anything. You're basically giving and then just asking. So this is your Gary V jab book, more of it just a jab right.
Yeah, and that's a great idea. I'm going to take a very similar approach. I definitely have to create a landing page and try to capture some interest from there. And obviously, it's a great way to get initial feedback. So I don't end up creating the whole resource and then realize that a lot of those things could should have not been gone there, or maybe they could have been improved. Yeah, and also I think it's a very interesting segue into our next question. So I wanted to understand that how do you go about creating a landing page for something. Now since you have touched upon an ebook or a resource or a ebook or a notion resource, now let's say I want to create an ebook or a resource for people to crack product design interview. How do I go about creating a land, or how would Rob go about creating a landing page for that?
Okay, so the big key to a landing page is basically removing yourself from what you know. You're the one who's landed the interview. You're not the one struggling with the interview. Your content that you've written, you've read so many times. You're the master. No matter what you're doing, this is a lesson with other landing pages, but you just forget that someone is confused, they're scared, they arrive, maybe they're rushed, but they haven't been introduced to what you do ever before. So they arrive, and what do they do when they arrive? They're learning for the first time. And what people do is they just flood it with too much information, a lot of watered down content, 20 testimonials, 16 of those have no value. It's just like noise. So for me, it's about what would that visitor who arrives at the first time need to see and read to be persuaded to actually act. So in your case, this is a person. I was reading this book, or listening to this book the other day on Audible, and the guy was saying you need to create your avatars. You're the person who's your target market. Who are they? What's their age? What do they do? You can go like real deep on this, but in your case, this is someone trying to land a design job. What do they need to see in this page to be persuaded to actually commit to this? Okay, so there's so many different things here, but the big one for me is, okay, very well, this resource looks great, but is it actually making change? Are people landing jobs because of this thing? Will this help me? I'd love to see some sort of social proof, some testimonials saying, hey, this guide that Darshan wrote landed me the perfect job with X company. And that company is a company that person knows who's visiting. So it's, wow, it's relatable. That's the job I'd want to get. Oh my word, this book just gave me all the information and how-tos and nuances. The big one's time. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it another 20 times in this live stream, is that if someone can say in a testimonial that this book saved me hours and hours of time, how much is hours of time for a $20 PDF? You're like, wow, if this is going to save me 10 hours of time for $20, I'm in. So yeah, when you arrive at the page, what's the trade of a good landing page? It identifies that this user is on a journey. Will this product or service take me there? And is it convincing enough that you will do the job? And that's through social proof and so on. And then obviously the big one, you just to go back on what I think is great in a landing page, is if you can demo your product somehow on this page with style, some sort of clever way, like I was saying with that iPhone app, where it's trying to tell you that this is a color picker iPhone app. And in that actual iPhone app, it starts bouncing around the screen and it starts changing the color within the iPhone app. You're like, oh my, that's exactly what this thing does. I can almost feel it's right there. The classic one, Tailwind CSS, a lot of in their header of their landing page, the code starts changing and the elements in the header start changing, and you can understand exactly what's happening. This is basically showcasing how it's using classes to change components within the page. That is an in-page demo on a landing page. It is just cut through any confusion of what it does. It's to the point, it's fun, it's remarkable, it's got that first impression. So yeah, if you can
also
preview your book. Yeah.
Just one question about which was very related. You talked about demo, giving a demo on the landing page, right? Now for an info product, now a resource to land a job interview or landing page hot tips, those are all info products, right?
Yes.
what would be the demo version for an info product?
Okay, we're going to talk about now why I don't have a landing page for my ebook soon. I can feel it. I can see it coming. What am I going to do there? And actually, let's go there after this.
Yeah.
But you'd want to showcase, hey, I've got an audio version. Hit play. There's me speaking. That's exactly the quality you're going to get. The PDF, if your ebook's PDF, I want to see it in a device. So that's trying to make it more real. And it's one of the tips out the ebook is that bring it to life, put it in a device. It just makes it more realistic versus just a square block. And then the different formats, I'm talking about the rich media format. It adapts, so I put it in a smaller device. An explainer video is just such a classic one. If you can just have a frame of someone just turning and looking and reading through it, it's convincing. It's actually, this thing's real. But an info product previews, nothing wrong with it. Zoom, click through a slider of all the different page previews. What I did recently is I told everyone I redesigned the whole ebook in Figma. And I've been showing around this global view of all the pages that I designed, this zoomed out view. And that is also convincing. Wow, he's designed 218 pages in Figma. That's a lot of content there. So info product, as many previews you can of the actual thing to make it look as real as possible in devices. Explainer video is always great. Short and sweet. Previews as many as possible. Yeah,
What about the free chapter? What about the free chapter right on the landing page? So you don't ask people to take action there, but I know this gets into the territory of you obviously want people to show interest by giving their email and then getting the chapter. But would you also recommend just to have a chapter on the page itself?
So someone asked me this on the live stream on Monday, and my answer, it's up to you. How do you feel about just trying to capture an email straight away versus someone actually in their journey learning about it? And your objective of your landing page is to sell the book. It'll probably decrease a little bit if everyone is trying, to get that free chapter and then, oh no, it's an email address. So what I'd suggest is that lower down the page above your FAQs, once they get to that point in their journey, maybe they haven't been convinced that much. And then above your FAQs, it's like, hey, if you're not convinced, maybe get emailed a free chapter that you do have that route, but you also have just download a free chapter with no email address. So it's up to you how you feel about it. I guess that if you were very lead hungry, you would have a form to give you subscribe to this drip that's going to remind you 12 times. But I'm not the biggest fan of that route, which is not popular in the landing page space, to say.
Yeah, awesome. And so great. If you want to create a landing page for an info product, just trying to summarize this, look at who your target audience is, what are they actually looking for. Maybe also try to identify what is most important to them in their journey. Then give them social proof. Tell them that how other people are being able to do this. Give them a clear value upfront, saying that this can save you 10 hours of time, so that they can directly equate it to the money that they're spending on it. So they can clearly see that I'm spending $20 for 10 hours for saving 10 hours. Yeah, that's like a fair deal. And try to give them preview of the content that you're going to give them after they buy it. So did we get all the points here?
Yeah, that's pretty good. So just to give you an idea on my landing page that I've been planning. Okay, so let's go there. Rob, why haven't you got a landing page for your landing page hot tips ebook? The irony is not lost to me.
Let's answer
and
this.
The answer is because I feel like it's this very heavy monkey on my back, and I've got pressure to make this a very good landing page, of course. And I've been working on it. It was not good enough. This is the perfectionism problem. But I didn't want a watered down version of the landing page that I wanted to show and to showcase the book properly. I'm far, but it's not ready. And I always go too far like this in absolutely everything I build. But basically, I want to get creative as well. How can I make this landing page different? How can I demo it in line? So at the very top of the landing page, I've got a switcher, which is called tip mode. And when you hit the tip mode, it turns all the elements in the page, it highlights them, and it's got arrows that go tip number 42, put it in a device. And then that's actually showing the device of the ebook. In-page demo, that's with the audio. So it's basically turns on all the tips, a testimonial from an opinion leader, tip number 19. And it just goes through the whole page, like sharing why this landing page is good. So it's very meta on meta on meta. But I thought that would be such a nice touch to showcase the actual product within the landing page product that's trying to sell the product. I know that sounds gross, but yeah, it's got sections where it shows you this is the Kindle version, this is the audiobook, this is the Notion version, and then obviously just testimonials, the handful, the best ones, showcasing the features of the ebook. I don't want any testimonials that say this was a great purchase or this is a wonderful ebook. You want a testimonial that answers a doubt. Someone's like looking at this ebook going, ooh, maybe this thing is going to take me 100 hours to get through all these tips. And then someone, but I've identified that. And then someone has written me a testimonial mentioning how easy it was to consume. It was snackable. They smashed it in a weekend and they're already applying actionable changes that are making change. And that's the testimonial I want. I also want a testimonial by someone that you probably all know. So some landing page person or some app maker. I know I've got a pretty good testimonial from the Unsplash CEO. So I might keep that in there. So yeah, this is just my thoughts right now. But yeah, my landing page is going to feature the tips that I'm talking about to try and back my word.
The designer in me already feels like it's going to be amazing. I can imagine how it's going to look like. I can imagine it could be something like these product walkthroughs that you have in the SaaS products, where they highlight a certain thing and they tell you that what this is about. People usually use that for feature discovery and to give you a walkthrough of a particular feature. So I can imagine that when you enter the tip mode, it has those small pointers or coach marks or walkthroughs which tells you that this is the tip and this is how it's
Like a
used on the
walkthrough.
page.
Yep.
And I'm very much looking forward to it. Do you have any plans of when you're going to do that?
3 months ago. No, but really, like I got a lot on my plates, and that's pretty much the lowest hanging fruit I have right now. That and the service. I do a feedback service where I critique people's landing pages, and that is also people are screaming for more information on that. Right now, I only offer that service if you buy the ebook, so it's only bundled in there at a discount. I don't have a landing page for my landing page service because it just doesn't represent in a fashion that I'm happy with. It's a terrible thing. I understand it sounds terrible when I say it out loud, but no, I don't have a landing page for my landing page service yet.
It's
So that's
okay.
May.
Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Obviously, we have expectations from you. But we also know that you're going to do a great job. And I think it's important that you do it. But I know that Rob being Rob, you're going to burn the midnight oil and you're going to spend so many hours and then you're going to finally make a big launch.
It'd be really interesting. I regret not doing it, but it'd be really interesting to take how much the ebook's made versus how many hours I put in. That'd be so interesting for me. I'm so lost in it right now. I've spent so many hours, but I wanted just to take a moment to say that those are very enjoyable hours for me. Finding that sound effect within the sound stock library sites, just getting stuck in there going, oh yeah, tip number 23, I need a slash effect, like a horror effect. So you're searching like knife and like all this kind of stuff. And then I'm searching flames for the cover. What font should I use? That's me stuck in the middle of being creative. What am I going to put at the bottom of all tips? Maybe I should have a little like cheeky branding, just like a fire, like a campfire. That would be nice. So these are all the things going through my head. And I honestly say, like, when you are creative, another takeaway, if you can try and be creative in the work you do, even if it's just so small, that is massive fuel and that's massive motivation for working on side projects. Allow creativity. And if you think you're not creative, I strongly disagree. Everyone's got it in them. It's just decision making and it's allowing time to experiment. Draw on a piece of paper. Oh, that was terrible. Just try different things.
Yeah, devil is in the details. If you are really passionate about something, just try to go a little bit extra mile. People who are really passionate about those things, they are going to notice that. And the kind of response that you get from those people is going to make you feel very good. Also, let's quickly talk about the numbers and the performance or the response that you've gotten for the resource. So how has it done so far? I know that you're not the person who like to gloat about these numbers. You like to share the learnings and lessons rather than the numbers, but just to
Yeah.
give some perspective, let's quickly do that.
Okay, I'm happy about it. I feel like we're an hour into this, so anyone listening they want to know that probably. But I just want to talk about transparency just quickly. Is that I'm big on transparency. What did it take? I have a section on my website called the Project Graveyard, And it just shows everything that I've done over the last 12 years and lots of failing, but everything's failing forward, learning from previous side projects, reusing those lessons into everything you do. And I talk about expenses. All my sites, onepagelove.com/transparency. This is all the software I use. Emaillove.com/transparency. This is how much it costs to run per month. I'm a big fan on this transparency. I feel like within our maker scene, we've lost our way a little bit, where we are supporting people that have made a lot of money, and especially quick money, where, yes, they deserve it for sure, but it's being celebrated, where more, hey, I was struggling and this is what I learned. I pivoted and now we're on our way. Now that's great. I learned from someone. I helped someone. This is stuff that should be rewarded online versus numbers. But yeah, let's get transparent. I've basically got a Gumroad. So without the landing page, I've just got a Gumroad product page. And I've sold, I just kicked it off now before this. I've sold in total 1,089 on Gumroad, and I've sold 98 on AppSumo. So in total, I've sold 1,187. And I want to do a big debrief as soon as I hit 1, 2, 3, 4. No one's done that really. And I feel like that's a great point, because everyone goes like, I got 1,000 sales or 10,000. I feel like 1, 2, 3, 4 is just fun. And that's where I'll do a big debrief. Everything that I've learned, that I've done. And a good example of that is that this pre-sale is $30 off for the next 30 hours. That was a massively good play, and I will bank that, and I want to share that with you. Please reuse that one. And I want to do 10 of those, and I want to do 10 fails, like things that I've done really badly that I would love you not to do. And then I'll probably share the number publicly, but silently, like within the blog post. It's not about, and then, yeah, so I've got a lot of affiliate marketing that I want to say as well. If you refer the ebook, you get 50% discount. A 50% kickback. And I must mention that. So the total revenue of the ebook alone is $37,000. But a good portion of that is paying people 50% of that sale. So this is just revenue through the door. I need to work out exactly. But yeah, it's bought me a lot of runway, man. People listening in India, even in Berlin, it's not that expensive. Here I am in Cape Town. My expenses aren't that much. So this is a lot of runway for me to get creative, take risks, work on my online course, have fun, try and add value. As Adam Wathan talks about, pull back the spring even further of adding value, and then drop your course. Yeah, I got lots cooking. I think that answered the question. It was, yeah, those are the numbers. I'm very grateful, obviously, and it continues to sell, which is really cool feeling.
Yeah, I mean, great job. Also, before we go into the next section about the side projects, I think I wanted to ask one particular question, but I'm not sure I remember. Here it is. How did you go about selling? What are the different methods that you're using to sell this book? So you mentioned you have affiliates. You'd sell it directly on Gumroad. You also had it on AppSumo, which is a marketplace for products. What are the other methods that you're using to sell the book?
So just to cover those two quick, which I'll try add some value there, is that the Gumroad is really easy to get started. And I would highly recommend it. You don't need your landing page in the beginning just to get started. You upload an image, a description, and you can take commerce instantly. You just upload your PDF and it works, and it's free. As soon as you start making some sales, then you're going to pay per month to try and reduce their cut that they get. But that is where you start. Gumroad, and they've also got a marketplace, and I've sold a few on their marketplace. They take a cut as well. But at the end, with this type of product, with this PDF product, the beauty is that every additional sale is basically a bonus because there's no support. So I got to experiment. Like the Parity pricing, I could have made 50%, but I just felt like 70 was right. I've had some deals that I've made with a few companies that were like, we really like your book. We don't really want to take a cut, but we'd love a good discount for your audience. Like I've had that, but through a big one. So let's use example, Smashing Magazine. For their paying subscribers, they're like obviously on some sort of annual subscription with them, and they want to reward them. So they're saying, hey, because you're a loyal customer of ours and a fan, we've got an exclusive discount of 70% off Rob's ebook for you. And then I basically get $14.70 per sale, all of it. There's no 50% cut on that. But at the end of the day, it's like, it's still $14.70 and I never have to do support on this. So that's a win. So I got that deal. So I've been doing that behind the scenes, just negotiating with a few people. There was a course that I once spoke on years ago with a massive list. And they reached out to me and they're like, hey, you got a book. Do you want a discount for our students? I'm like, 100%, let's do 70%. And we can speak about pricing in a bit. This is a resource where someone's going to make money with their landing page or give away a free download, but mostly is you're going to sell something with your landing page. And I originally wanted to price it at $19. That's like where I felt right in the beginning. And so many people went back to me, please don't do that. The perceived value of your expertise and your content, you have 100 tips, 12 years experience studying, doing audits, freelancing, and you wanted to sell this for $19. It's just not right. So just 49 was like my natural next. I thought, okay, well, I'm trying to price it way more. So 49. And then I was like, you know what? I can get very creative with discounts. So when someone wants to sell the ebook, I say, hey, would you like a $10 off coupon for your audience? And then it knocks off 20% basically. So it lands up being $39. And then the sale happens with their audience, and then they get $19 and I get $19. They're hooked. They're getting $20 a pop. I'm getting $20 a pop. So affiliate marketing is a massive recommendation when it comes to something with low support like a PDF. And be generous. You've experienced this as well, but a lot of times people have their cookie blockers and it doesn't track that sale in Gumroad. But I assign a dedicated coupon for every single affiliate that I have with their name. So if I see a sale that has their name on it, and it doesn't show in Gumroad that this was tracked, because Gumroad automatically pays all your affiliates. If it doesn't do that, I just pay them directly in PayPal. If I'm not so sure about something, I just pay them in PayPal. On Twitter, when I see a conversation happen and then someone buys the ebook, I just pay that person 50% of what I got immediately. It's like just a no questions asked. And I feel like with that attitude of I'm not trying to skim anyone's goodwill here who has helped spread the love about the ebook. And that's really worked for me because people tend to share it more and more. And don't forget is that it's bundled with the critique service that I talked about. So if someone opts into the ebook and the critique, which is currently priced right now at $250, that's the book and the critique service, you get $125. But yeah, no worry, Alan. Yeah, thanks for buying the book. Just want to chime in there. So yeah, I give them $125 and they are super jazzed. So guys, don't overlook affiliate income. Don't overlook the deals with the big companies. But where else can I put the ebook? AppSumo is a weird one because they don't offer refunds. They're when they got someone's email address, you're going to convince someone to go to AppSumo, they're going to sell to them so hard. So I feel a bit guilty telling people that there's a discount there, but their marketplace has got lots of people, thousands and thousands. And it's selling 100% and it's passive. So would I recommend AppSumo for a PDF that's got no support? 1,000,000%. I would recommend that. Took a bit to get in there. I had to customize a few things, create more imagery, like hours and hours, but the passiveness work up front and you let that thing go. So yeah, other mediums, One Page Love. I linked to it from my own site. I linked to it from my newsletters. I mentioned it in my podcast. Many avenues to promote an ebook. And what's so great about an ebook and a discount is that you can say, hey, if you're enjoying this podcast episode, visit this link or use the coupon YO and you get 20% off. And then you can track the effectiveness of your marketing through coupons. So that's a big takeaway there.
Yeah, and the way that you approach affiliate marketing, that's also a great gesture on your part. For people in the stream, I've also been an affiliate for Rob Hope's book. And it's actually been one of the best performing affiliate campaigns that I do through my newsletter. And also, I think Rob is one of the very few people who would always want to have that goodwill up there. And he sent me the money through his he tracks if the sale has been made through my affiliate mention, and he sends the money through PayPal without no questions. I don't have to follow up or anything. There's no back and forth. Rob sees it and he just does it. So great, just on you.
Thank you very much. The big macro takeaway here is that I'm just trying to behave in a way that I appreciate everyone else to behave on the internet. And it's with integrity. At the end of the day, we just got to look after each other, not take shortcuts. We're in it for the long haul here. So let's just have a good time. And it's about building relationships online. My life's really rich because of my network of people that I interact with all day. And how do you make that richer? Is just be kind to everyone, add value. And yeah, so let's just throw it just there, just for a second, is that I've designed this situation where I created this 100-tip email drip and people are still subscribing today. Maybe right now after this, someone subscribed after the link and you'll get tip 1 now and you get tip 2 tomorrow. And someone replied to me this morning and they just went through the 101st email and they're like, thanks, Rob. Really enjoyed that. That's literally what they said. They didn't ask me for anything. And with all modesty, by giving a lot, and I just want to recommend it, that's the takeaway here, is that if you can try and add value and not ask for anything back, it creates this wholesome internet experience. And I promise you, when you wake up on a Sunday morning and you open your emails and someone's just thank you, I really enjoy that series. Like I have that now in so many different areas of my life, Twitter direct message and different things I'm doing, the podcast. And it's just a very wholesome experience. So I'm a massive advocate for working online. It's got such a stigma. It's, bad for you. And there's so many, this quick money, stay in there for the long term. There's lots to achieve and there's lots to get rewarded on when you add value within your niche. So yeah, I know there's a little side note, but I'm just saying this, like life of being motivated online, doing side projects, it exists. And when you speak to more people, you'll find there's lots of people having a very good time online.
That's great. I can 100% vouch that. It's also one of the reasons why I create stuff online. The feedback and the messages that you get from people, absolutely, it makes my day. And it's one of the reasons why it's been 4 years that I've been working on Product Disrupt. It's not like a money making machine for me. It's more like a labor of love. Obviously have some sponsorships, which helps me keep the project sustainable. But the number one reason why I still feel so motivated to do it day in and like after every 2 weeks, it's because I get these messages, people telling me that how they have found it helpful and how they helped in their design journey in a job, whatever the reason might be. And it's just amazing. So yeah,
Wonderful.
definitely try to give value to people. They're going to pay it forward. And that's one of the beauty of trying to helping out people. Rob, before we go to the next section of talking about side projects, do you want to take some questions from the chat which might be related to landing pages?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a few out here. I know we got a question, is into my favorite typeface. So my journey on typefaces has gone from, everyone used Helvetica back in the day, then we went to Roboto, then it went to Proxima Nova, and then Sophia Pro, and then now I've landed on Inter. It's just such a good typeface. And then this print here is by the designer of Inter, Rasmus. And I got that shipped in from the States. Yeah, it was difficult to get to South Africa, trust me, but it was worth all the stoked. Like the fact that Shasant said is into your favorite by looking at that is just like exactly why it's there, is just to give a shout out to just like the most wonderful typeface. So I'm using Inter now on my personal site, One Page Love. I'm using it on Email Love, and I'll probably continue to use it on all my sites for a very long time. So yeah, Inter's definitely the typeface that
Yeah,
is my go-to Swiss Army knife.
it's also one of my favorites, especially for anything product related. It's a font or typeface which has been made for product design. It works just perfectly on your digital products, be it a SaaS product or mobile application, whatever. It just works great. And some of the other favorite ones, Gilroy. I don't know if you pronounce it Gilroy. It's one of the
I think it's Gilroy. I don't know.
yeah, one of the most amazing fonts. It's actually my go-to font for most of the things that I'm doing these days. I launched my new portfolio. The poster that we have for the stream, that has also been created using Gilroy. And another great font, which is, I think it's very expensive, but it just works perfectly on landing pages. It's
Yeah.
yeah, and I think I've been seeing a lot of marketing websites from product these days, and they're slowly using Apergo. And I think, what is this analytic website, Mixpanel? They also
Yeah.
relaunched, and I think they also used Apergo. So definitely take a look into that as well.
This is quite funny. Just a freestyle side note is that I work by myself, I interact with people digitally. I don't speak to a lot of people, to be honest, about fonts. So I haven't heard any font names out loud, to be honest. So that was actually hilarious because I
Yeah.
bet you we all dealing with this, but in those agency levels where designers are freestyling, they're probably going like a perku, and there's probably ways to say it, and everyone's laughing at each other. Yeah, we're going to shout out here for Gilroy as well, or Gilroy. But yeah, in
Mhm.
our South African accent, we also just butchering everything. We've got our own little blends. So we've got a question here. Why is AB de Villiers so good? So like for people that don't
Oh, AB de
know
Villiers.
cricket, let's not lose them. But AB de Villiers is a South African cricket player. He is by far the best batsman, I want to say, in the world right now. No, I know you Indian guys won't agree with that. But basically, he it's a very sore topic. I just want to say that you brought that up. It stung a little, but basically he left our South African side to focus on, I don't want to say the Indian Premier League, but the Premier League, like the money, the fame. You want to say that, but there's a side story here where he's been really messed around locally. Our administration's in disarray. And guess what? If someone over here is saying, dude, we love you, we appreciate you, and we will compensate you, and this one's like just absolutely mucking
Yeah.
about, I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all. But the fact that he left and then said he wanted to come back just for our World Cups where everyone's been like grinding super hard as a team. And then all of a sudden that he just wants to like he will take spotlight because he's absolutely amazing, but it's just not right. By principle, we should say no to him, even though we desperately need him. Our cricket side's in an absolute shamble. But I don't want to lose too many people that don't know cricket. But why is he so good? I don't know why he's so good. He's so good, man. He's so
Do
good.
you know that there's this
I
popular meme on the internet going around, especially in India? So there's an image of De Villiers and the things that De
Yeah.
Villiers can do. Plays for the national side in rugby, football,
Mm.
plays guitar, top grades in college. Like AB De Villiers, he can just do everything.
Yeah, he's so talented on that level. So you want to call him a superhuman on sport level? That's quite funny. Like if a little backstory, just for the few of you that are still hanging around, is that I actually know Dale Steyn a little bit, and I helped build one of his sites like back in the day. And we've just been, he surfs down the road, and he's such a good guy. He's such a lovely dude, and I've seen how big Dale Steyn is, especially in India. Like, because I was like interacting with his Facebook page at a time, and I could just see his social channels. And the guy cannot say anything without someone just like the sea of people just bombarding him. Anyway,
What do I say, dude?
A-
Indians like to
AB
give a lot of love.
and I love it, but AB de Villiers is way more famous than Dale Steyn. But yeah. Anyway,
No
cool.
doubt, no doubt.
Let's get back on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got another fonts, Avenir, Massapia. Yeah,
Avenir
there's some
was
great
one
fonts
of
up
my
there.
favorite fonts back in the day.
That's my girlfriend's favorite font, Avenir.
Say my hi to her.
Well, okay, should we get onto side projects?
Yeah, okay. All right. So let's just start with a very broad question. So, what is a side project to you? How do you feel about side projects?
Okay. In my situation, it's interesting because I call One Page Love a side project, but it's not really because I work on it all the time. So I guess a side project is a project that working on other than your primary income. So if you are working at the bank and you are learning to code on the side and you're creating a little SaaS app to do with like finance tracking and so on, that's your side project. So in it, so to speak, for me, I was working on One Page Love at the time, and through years and years of not struggling, but like failing and experimenting with income streams, I eventually got my income from One Page Love to increase, and and through some diligence as well, got my expenses in South Africa to decrease. And as soon as it gets to that point, you get to take the leap into working on it full time. So yeah, it's now all my other experiments. I would say my ebook right now is a side project. My landing page course is a side project. I've got a site called Email Love, which is the sister site to One Page Love, which is email inspiration. That's a side project. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, the way that I think of side projects is it's an outlet for expression or creativity for me. I think that I like to approach side project as something which I might not be able to do in my day job, but we are just not our work. We do a lot of different things. We have so many interests, and side project is a way that you can dive into those interests. Maybe it can become your main thing someday, but just to have an outlet where you can be more creative, be more expressive, it's great. One example, a lot of people could be working in they could have a product design job, and most of the time that they are spending is doing the product design work, which is not flashy always, but they might also be
Mm.
interested into looking at this website, some awards where it's all like it's just an expression of what they can do on the internet. And side project could be an outlet for those kind of things. They could definitely try to showcase those skills by working on a side project, and it could be so many things, but it's just a way to express. That's how I look about it.
Okay, we've got a question. If I can just chime in there, Darshan, we got a
Yeah.
question here from Rishab. He's just saying, with so many side projects and goals in the pipeline, who else do I listen to apart from Jack Butcher and Gary Vee to keep yourself motivated? I'm super transparent on the internet, or try to be. I actually don't consume a lot of Jack Butcher's content. His visualized value infographics are absolutely brilliant. The way he's distilled bigger concepts and famous quotes and concepts into infographics is genius. It's just so gorgeous how minimal they are. But I actually try to steer away from that, especially recently. I know that he went heavy into NFTs, and I'm also just trying to steer away from that right now. I understand there's going to be a massive demand eventually, probably, but it's just distracting, if that's honest. If I'm like super honest, like his stuff's distracting. Gary Vaynerchuk, though, as you can see here, got Crushing It. I got a few of his books, but he can seem real noisy for a lot of people. I also find when I'm distracted and not sure what I have to do, I start consuming more of his content, which is, it's okay. But Gary Vee's put in the time, and he says a few things that I think people take too to heart. You got to watch what he does. That's the whole thing. It's like, watch where he's putting his attention. Watch how he juggles the team. It's all these things with that. And he says that so often. He's, guys, I know I say a lot of things, but watch how I do it. So that's what I try and do. I try and watch what Gary does. His jab right hook is just, it's the absolute game changer. It's about just adding value. And then at the end, once you've added a ton of value, it's, you basically ask, you don't say buy this, you just say, hey, if you appreciate what I did, support me. So what he does is he adds like a ton of content, and then he's like, hey, buy 10 of my books. Like he right hooks that thing like crazy. But also I try and get inspired outside of the niche as well. I'm into bird watching, I'm into surfing, I consume a lot of surfing content. I'm really into punk rock, metal. I've actually been listening to drum and bass. I'm a little bit embarrassed. My old Rob would be quite embarrassed about that one, like growing up, but it's really good to work to. It's actually like punk rock without lyrics. What content do I consume? Not that much. Hey, I don't listen to that many podcasts. The irony of hosting a podcast. I don't read that much. I spend a lot of time on Twitter, and I've spent so much time curating the people I follow. I have so many words on mute that I feel like every time I hop on Twitter, it's got value. There's no ways there's no value. And then I go down these rabbit holes, lots of reading articles, long form articles, like Darshan was saying. So yeah, it's a lot of content consumed online. I will listen to the odd interview with someone that I'm really inspired by, the odd podcast interview, especially if I'm researching for my own podcast. I'll go deep down the rabbit hole with them. But yeah, how do you stay? What keeps you motivated? Like, what else do you listen to? No, the odd YouTube video for sure. I'm big on hot ones. I'm trying to see how guys are trying to be creative with the interview format. Spicy chicken wings to make a Charlize Theron bring out some swear words. Like, I'm interested. So I'm watching how, it's a big one. I'm watching, what they're doing, how they're doing it. It's not necessarily like what they're saying. But the best interviewer on the internet is Sean Evans from Hot Ones, hands down. There's no question about it. I just got another question here, if we can just roll with it, from Yashu. Do you make a clear design plan before creating content for a landing page? I find it difficult to do it simultaneously. I feel super stuck. What's your suggestion? The beauty of a landing page is it can change. It's not the end. You can launch it with your final ebook. But think about my journey is that I sent the first tweet out of the 100 tweets like last year, May. And then people giving me feedback and so on. I did the pre-sale with the Gumroad page, which had copy about what is in the ebook. And then I added a testimonial as I got them. And then I've basically been creating that content now over a very long time. I've sketched the landing page, what I thought it'd be like. I put it into Figma. I've torn that page up. I've thrown it, I basically put in the fire because it's the worst landing page I've ever seen. And I just go down this emotional road. But once it's launched, I'll tell you one thing is that once it's launched, my landing page in a year's time will be different. So it's all about iterating. It's about basing on feedback. A tip in the book as well is that your FAQs, they should be curated. Your most commonly asked questions should be at the top. Anything that's post sale should go to the support section. So there's so much you can do when it comes to refining. Another one I have is one in, one out. When you're when a new testimonial comes in, that's amazing. Jack Butcher's just said, hey, this landing page helped improve my landing page. That goes in and the worst one goes out. So it's this way of doing things where it's you just focus on less is more, but it's not about, convincing the visitor with as much as possible. It's as little as possible. So just about the design plan before when creating content, paper, just start there, mock it up, sleep on it. Most things where I rush it, and then I go away and then I come back to it. I was thinking, oh my word, that was crazy. I can't even believe I was going to launch that. It's about time. Sit with that with time and just keep tweaking. So that's a healthy way to go around that.
Awesome. Also, Rob, you have a great history of launching so many side projects. And one thing that I really admire about you is that you are actually able to launch those projects. It's not just that it's not a list of ideas sitting in some of your notepads. You're actually been able to create that and you have been launching it, so many of them. What is that like? How are you different from other people who are not being able to create something and launch something? Everybody has a list of ideas. Whenever people see a new product, they would immediately go, oh, I could have had the same idea. I had the same idea, but you never executed that. And you are able to launch so many of those projects. How are you doing that?
Okay, we saw that tweet the other day where he's like, oh, I should have thought of that. I could code that on the weekend. That was it. So
Yeah.
it's like your friend says, I could have coded on the weekend. And then the reply was like, well, you didn't. It's like almost
Exactly.
no ideas is that unique. And if it is, that's almost a concern. It's a red flag, because if it's truly that unique, why has no one done it? So it does exist, but those are your unicorn ideas. And most of the time it's execution. We don't have to go down this whole execution and versus ideas discussion. There's lots of good stuff out there. But with me, the big one is that I'm normally scratching an itch, or I'm very interested in that topic and I'd like to collect more references or learn about it. And I just start curating. That's the big takeaway here, curating. And through my curation and through the time that I spent filtering out the noise, and I landed up putting it into a consumable format, I've now created value because I'm saving them time. And them is everyone else on the internet that's interested in my niche. So how do I get, so many things shipped? How many get them out there? Is that it's about just getting it done. And I'm just, let me go a bit deeper there, is that I know that I'm the only one in the way of my success. I will not make any excuses. I have so many external factors that I could just don't be the victim. And like, you are the only one in the way of yourself. And that's a big takeaway. And I'm like, I've used that quite a lot, is that you're the only one in the way of yourself. So you need to step out the way and let's get it done. So how do I go launch Email Love while I'm working on One Page Love? Where do I find the time? And it's about sacrifice. There's no question about it. It's about questioning, is this worth my time? Is this worth a long-term effort that you warrant spending extra time doing this? Are you willing to sacrifice extra features that One Page Love needs for launching Email Love? But the big one for me is that when I launched Email Love a couple of years ago, I say we, it was me on One Page Love, like 10 years in. And you're reviewing sites every single day. And I got to a stage where just their motivation dipped. And then I thought to myself, you know what? I've built up a good amount of traffic here. I really am intrigued by how people are being creative with emails, especially with animated GIFs. And there's some fancy stuff. Also email, like AMP was coming in, Gmail AMP, and it's getting more exciting email versus where it was a little while ago. So I said, what would be really fun is if I could create a sister site to One Page Love. And yeah, again, like there's multiple variables, what greenlights a side project, but if I could get the .com, emaillove.com, that was my green light. I wasn't going to do it with a .net, .io. All respect to anyone who ships on a domain like that. There's nothing wrong with it. But for me, having One Page Love for 10 years and then launching emaillove.net was not going to happen ever. I wouldn't be able to sleep. So it's about getting that. I do not have the social handles. They're all poached and it kills me. I'm still trying. But how do I do it? So at the same time, is it going to, this is another takeaway. Is your side project going to help your primary project? And will you be able to promote your side project from your primary project? If you have multiple side projects, will they be able to cross promote each other? Because this is just saving you time. If this doesn't happen, it's more difficult to greenlight a side project. You have to start from zero. But email love, one page love, emails are basically mini landing pages. I deal with email marketing all the time. There's so much I feel like I can add in the email space. So there's just like tick, 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 tick. So let's talk about my other side project, checklists. It doesn't even have a name, but it's chl.st. Let me just drop it in here quick. Is that I was doing the ebook and I thought to myself, how can I add more value in the ebook? Make the ebook even better. And I said, I want interactive checklists. And I want people to be able to go pre-launch on their landing pages and go, hey, I just want to ensure that I've got everything covered before my launch. I could give them a static PDF. I could give them a Notion board now, which are actually quite sufficient. But what about if someone could spin up a checklist on their mobile phone and actually go through the points? And as they go through the points, the progress bar changes at the top. And it's just, you can check that. Each point links out to the tip just as a reminder of just in case you have that point. So the point is to bring it to life in a device. It links to that tip. So I thought, why not? So anyway, I teamed up with a friend. I said, hey, what would this take? A developer, I'm not that big on heavy backend code. I don't really understand the systems of creating a million checklists. So basically, here I am with too much on my plate already. And I've got this idea to create checklists for my ebook. And I say to myself at this point, hey, what would be really good is to make interactive checklists. And then the overthinking comes and you're like, wow, you know what? Let's look at all the checklist sites out there. So I look at them and they're so bloated. And this is the classic developer, designer, maker thinking, is that I'm pretty sure I can do this better than everyone else. And I could have saved myself 1,000 hours by not, doing that. But I did it because I could work with a good friend. I feel like I can help other people. I potentially have a SaaS service. I know I'm going to use it anyway for my checklists. Everyone who buys my ebook will actually use the service. So there was so many things. I could use it in so many areas of my life. I'm now using the checklist as a production checklist for my podcast. I've got 50 steps I have to go through for every episode. I'm using my own product. If this was my podcast right now, I would have had a little chime cashier sound, but that is like the ultimate green light for a side project. If you get to use your own product, then you're going through and actually checking things and going, wow, this is an awful experience on a mobile phone. And by doing that, you're improving, you're iterating, and you're creating a beautiful little product. So it pains me because here I am, launched the ebook last year, launched the checklist, opened up, created a mini landing page saying, hey, the beta is going to open in January 2021. And we're not ready to open the doors yet because I'm still dealing with the ebook, lots on the plate. I need that critique service landing page. And it's just how it is. This journey, working online, working on side projects, is just a daily struggle. It's about just saying no there, yes there. And the takeaway is that my motivation was super high when I started to work on checklists. And that was a lot of my time. And it was a great time. But then now my motivation right now is to actually create a landing page for this landing page ebook. And I guess what happens, you have to say no to the checklist site now. So once things have settled, my motivation will probably dip and I'll be like, what do I have on my plate? Oh, I have that side project checklist. Let's rock and roll and get our first users on board. So it's just this nonstop journey with your own side projects where I must admit is just very motivating online. Yes, one page love suffers from it. I'm splitting my focus. I'm diluting maybe that road that I could go down and just go super hard, but it's okay. It's just one big journey. And I've actually learned to live with that sort of scattered side project feeling, which I'm sure you have as well, Darshan.
Yeah. Are you saying that the reason why you're able to launch so many side projects is because somehow they're related to one another? So it's a bit easier for you to create those projects.
I didn't answer that very well, but it's about
No, I mean
saying no to
you did.
things
I
that
just
aren't
tried to
important.
summarize it.
Yeah. So the big takeaway is like, how do you find the time? And it's about saying no to things that aren't really going to aid you to where you want to go. And where I want to go is I want to create an ebook with a great checklist app. And to say yes to the checklist app, I have to say no to a lot of external things. I have other side projects that just go straight into the bin. So for example, during the pandemic, I created a gift voucher service. We don't have to talk about that now, but
Yeah.
basically that got discontinued the second the checklist app got green lighted. And it's about this shuffle with your assets online. And there's only so much you can do in a week. But I feel like if you focus on your products and services that can actually promote the other products and services, this beautiful cross promotion, that's harmony online. And that's the reason why I work on so many, is that it's exciting to see that cross promotion. It's exciting to help different people in different areas. And just to work on one page websites for your whole life, I'm really passionate about it, but it's quite difficult to build a checklist SaaS app. And I feel like that challenge is going to be exciting, and I'm going to learn a lot from it. So yeah, again, didn't really answer what you were saying, but
No, you
yeah,
did.
it's about
And
saying no to a
also,
lot of things.
and one thing that you mentioned which really resonates with me, which is you're trying to always ask yourself a question. Is it going to take you anywhere close to where you want to be? It's actually it's a general rule that I apply to most of the things that I do in my life. So I don't believe in goals, but I believe in vision.
Mm,
So I
okay.
always, so I, in back of my head, I know that where I want to be someday. So whenever new opportunities come my way, I'm always trying to, before saying yes to them, I'm always trying to ask myself this question: that is it going to take me anywhere closer to the main objective that I have, to where I see myself going? And if the answer is, sometimes answer cannot always be the firm yes, but if it's like very off track, then in that case it's easier for me to say no to it, and I don't feel guilty about it. So yeah, a great way to gauge opportunities.
I'll say, yeah, on topic, for a lot of people working on side projects, is that the end is a very dangerous place to go, because just everything changes all the time. Personal things will happen, your motivation will change, the people you or maybe teamed up with, things can change. So it's never a sure thing. So you must focus on just enjoying yourself in the middle. And where I am right now is completely in the middle of my journey online. And I say, are these things guiding me to where I want to be? Where do I want to be? To be honest, where I want to be is right here, right now. I don't think it's going to get better than this, because every day is fulfilled with just a great conversation online. People are, grateful for the value I'm giving. I'm learning every day. I just learned how to do a Notion book, and now I learned what it took to put a Kindle onto the Kindle store. I knew I learned about Amazon commission. Like, this is just all every day I'm learning new skills. But for me, about the end, and is this next side project going to help me on the end? It's more if that side project will just enable a more rich middle. I guess that's another way to say it. So the checklist app, the email love, the one page love, these are all things that sort of integrate with each other. They're so exciting to work on. They're difficult as well. Like email love right now doesn't have a lot of traffic, and I'm adding emails. I lose motivation. I go back. One page love, I need to clean up the template section. There's so much I need to do, that all these little side projects, if they can help each other and cross promote each other, that's a green light, and is the end. This is the end. Yeah. So it's a bit meta, that, but we are here right now.
Yeah. And when do you think is the right time to monetize a side project? I think it's very important to make projects sustainable so that you can keep working on them.
Yeah.
And this is also, you also make a full-time living on these projects, right? So
Mm.
obviously you have to make them sustainable and you have to find a nice way to monetize it. So when do you think would be a right time for someone to monetize a side project?
Okay, that's parted into two and saying that question. The second one is like how to monetize it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the first part is, and I have changed my opinion on this, is that not all side projects have to be monetized. No, absolutely not. So if you feel like, let's use a great practical example, you love surfing a lot, and we've seen this, like in my world, is that just someone's, I want to be a professional surfer, and then they now need to perform within that category. It's their passion, that's their world, and then all of a sudden they start hating surfing because there's so much pressure on that doing well, and that was their release, and that was their world. So to compartmentalize your like passion and just fund it through something else is like a very healthy mindset to be in, or it can be. Okay, but it's been done. People do monetize their passions, and there's also beauty in that. When to monetize is, you got to ask yourself, like, first of all, if I was making $2,000 a month from this per month, my expenses are $1,500 a month, and I was here like in a year's time, and then all of a sudden that side project started making $500 a month, and I just quit everything. Like, how am I going to feel about this side project? Am I going to try and squeeze the life out of it now? Just slap on a few more ads? Like, that's a very dangerous place to try and start abusing. And I don't know, abusing is not the right word, but you're going to try and milk more out of the side project. And this is your passion. This is your life. And I've experienced all of this multiple times. So I am a fan of just distributing your side projects as well. Not all eggs in one basket. So maybe if I'm getting $500 from Email Love here, $500 from One Page Love, $500 from Checklist, that's also quite a cool way to roll. And also, if you're like really passionate about, just say, emails, and you're like, I don't want to actually put the pressure on the site, just write about emails, like just free flow. When you don't have any sponsors, you don't have to check in with anyone. You don't have any restriction. You can get super creative. So a good one, for example, is I have the Yo podcast, which I had originally monetized, and I pulled that out. I stopped subscriptions. I pulled out little bits of advertising. Actually, I never really had advertising properly. I've just been promoting the ebook, but now I get to get super creative. I don't have to check in with anyone. What I say, I can get very experimental when it comes to music, and I'm having a blast. Like, I got sound effects, and that's because I've chosen to not monetize this. I don't have to make this my full-time income. And by doing that, it's just a load off my shoulders. So as context, I had, I think, 20 or 30 people on, as call them patrons. I wasn't using Patreon. I had 20, 30 people, paying me every month to be a subscriber on my podcast. And then I'd be working on Checklist app, Email Love, One Page Love. And next thing, I haven't released a podcast in 3 months. And I feel this weight on my shoulders and this pressure. And the combined income, I think, from those 30 people was maybe $400 or $500 a year. I think it was a pay what you want model. And I'm thinking to myself, is this $500 a year worth the pressure of having to please these people? Obviously, you can also just step back and say, I don't owe these people anything. They're just big supporters of the podcast. But that's me, and that's how I feel. And I've identified that I'm not going to feel any other way. So by me stopping those subscriptions, unmonetizing my side project, it immediately became better for me. I have freedom. I don't have that pressure, and I get to be creative. So just that was, point number one, is that not every side project needs to be monetized. And if you really want to be creative and not have to milk the thing when times are tough, industry changes, just keep that in mind. How to monetize a side project? So the classic one. But if you want to monetize something in your niche, you need to ask yourself, how can I keep providing value? So let's use context. Let's use something like ridiculous. Paper jets. So you're obsessed with paper jets.
Yeah.
Every day you fold a new one. You're watching little videos on paper jets. How do we get this paper jet side project to make money where I can quit being a developer? Like, what a wild question. And Gary Vee's Crush It is what you need to read, but rather watch a few of his videos or Crush It summaries. It is a touch dated. I know he's updated the book, but basically means you need to just go all in on your niche, try to add as much value as you can. I'll give you some examples. And then you need to experiment and test the waters. And you need to be a master within your passion. And then it's not a sure thing, but I'm pretty sure you can earn a decent income. So with a paper jet, let's freestyle, Darshan, is that you would probably start the lightest of blogs. And you would use, if you wanted to make it look good from the start, you would use a WordPress theme on some hosting, or you'd use a Squarespace site. But like once a week, you would probably say, hey, this is the paper jet that I made this week. It's like a guide. It's like a how-to. If you want to go even lighter than that, you could probably start a curated gallery saying, these are great paper jets I saw, like an inspiration gallery of paper jets. And then maybe that links out to all the different paper jet tutorials out there. So yeah, you buy paperjetinspo.com or something, and then you start curating. But don't forget, this is the real kicker, is that you love paper jets. This is not a chore for you to do. You're actually out there already trying to get content. You have bookmarks for days. Your Notion board's full with references. So here you are collecting content, and you're like, let's just do this publicly. So every time you have a new tutorial, maybe you actually decide, hey, I'm actually going to try and do this myself, and I'm going to film it. So you put your camera above you and you start making these little videos where you start making the paper jet, and these are little quick ones. Each paper jet takes like 2 minutes. Put on YouTube, you put it on Instagram, and you just start giving away all this content. You show people how to do it. So over time, and I guarantee you, if you consistently drop a week one, then it's 3 times a week, and then eventually if you can get it every day, like One Page Love, I add at least a post a day, you will get other people that are into paper jets arriving at your site. Google will find you, and you will become this resource, especially because when people come, there's new content. Google keeps seeing that you're adding, so they keep popping you up in the archives, they keep popping you to the top. And now at this point, you have a big archive of paper jets. So you can say, how can we add more value, Josh? And this is the big question. It's like, how can we add more value to someone who is arriving looking to make paper jets? And guess what? It's you can sell cutouts. Like, what if you had PDFs of paper jet drawings? So these are the exact lines. So you spend some time, you may even do it. You can scan it. Let's go super old school, but you should mock it up in Figma, and you sell this paper jet drawing for $5 and just see what happens. If that doesn't take off, you give it away for free. You build up this newsletter. The newsletter is like Paper Jet Weekly or Paper Jet Monthly. Okay. So you get to this point, you start YouTube videos, tutorials, how to do it. And eventually get to the point where you're like, hey, if you enjoyed this content, masterclass. This is what everyone's doing. It's $19 or $50, and we just have so much fun. And I'm going to take you through the ins and outs of choosing the right paper, what flies the best, how to get experimental, create little courses. Geez, I can't believe I've gone this deep. But within your passion, you're naturally doing what you've been doing behind the scenes, and just share it with everyone else. How can we add more value? Let's go there. How can we add more value? We have a course now. We've got downloadable PDF cutouts that you print. How can we add more value? Maybe a guide to saying which paper flies better. So like a deep drill down. Maybe you start selling paper. You actually start selling the paper jet pack, which has got 50 cutoutable paper things. So anyway, so what happens at this point is that you've tried this time, and this is what I did with One Page Love, is that I've now tried like 30 different experiments, and the ones that did better is I put more attention to them. I put them in better places on the site. I started promoting them more on the YouTube videos. The ones that did bad, they go further down the experiment list. This whole big, I talk about like adding layers to a cake. Some are thin layers, some are big layers. The ones that earn more, you put more real estate on them. So you'll notice that I have a sponsored post on One Page Love. I write an article every month for Squarespace, and that's in the prime real estate. It's in the 9th thumbnail on every single page on the site. So I did that because that's the biggest income I have. So there's lots of shuffling happening and refining behind the scenes. But I promise you, once you've tried 30 different income streams, you can understand what's working and what's not. You've got your list. You've got your YouTube comments. People are going, hey, I'm really struggling with the right paper to use or something like that. And you make a YouTube video on it. YouTube videos about paper. Guess what? You'll buy a stack of paper through this site, which is just designed for perfect flight. Yeah, Darshan, I'm freestyling here big time. But the point I'm trying to make is that I feel like any side project can get monetized where you just give it your all. You have to show up every single day, which I've done on One Page Love for the last 12, 13 years. I've added 8,000 sites because I really love simple to the point websites. For me to get a submission and I just kick it off on a Monday morning, and this is just this beautiful in-page demo on this landing page, and someone's trying to sell something, color picker iPhone app. I'm just like, that is amazing. And then I collect it, I screenshot it, I look at the code, I'm like, wow, this is built with Webflow. That's so interesting. I review it, I add it, I share it. People are like, wow, that's cool. It's a wholesome place to be when you find your people. And through going ultra niche, yeah, you will find your people. And yeah, that's your passion. So I was adding one-page websites on Friday nights, Sunday mornings while everyone was out, because I love doing it. And I knew that I had to put in that extra effort, add more value. And that was how I took the leap, is just try to add more value and experiment with so many different income streams. So I think that answered the question, Darshan. How do you monetize a side project? Got to get.
Yeah, you've given us so many ideas. It also got me thinking. Let's talk about paper jets. I can think it can also become like a spin-off project where the value that we are selling is the entertainment. It could also become a project where people are organizing paper jet competitions.
Oh man.
People are doing different activities with paper jets, and it's documentation of that. Yeah, meetups, passionate people. 100%. There are so many ways that you could go about it. Yeah, and I think one of the major takeaways from what you just said is also that try to diversify your income streams. You don't have to go all in on just one project. If you have multiple projects, as Rob mentioned, you can take the liberty of not having to monetize all of them. there could be a few which is going to make the most amount of your money, and then others could be just projects that you do for enjoyment. And obviously those projects can also bring in uh, audience or users to your main project. Look at what Rob does. So his main income stream is One Page Love, but then he also has your podcast. And I think a lot of people might have first listened to your podcast and then also discovered One Page Love from that.
Exactly.
So distribution. So there are a lot of ways to go about it. So Rob, before we end the stream, one last question. What would be your general advice to fellow makers out there, makers who are trying to work on side projects?
Okay, so yeah, let's end it on this note is that you gotta really realize what I say about you're in the way of yourself. Take accountability. You can't be the victim. There's so many resources out there online to get us where we want to be, and stick with it. Be a person of your word. Get it done. Show up. Seth Godin, that was the question from earlier. What I consumed. Seth Godin, his daily free email. He's a big one. He's just rock up every day, and you will. And if you actually mean what you say, you will separate yourself from a lot of people online and be that person of
Absolutely.
integrity. So a big one with the making scene is that you must just realize that things change and you can't really aim for the end. The end is now, and if your now isn't motivating for you, you need to tweak. It's like in your day you have two lists: things you like doing, things you don't like doing. You take away, you chip it at one at a time. Do all the things you like doing, do more of these, try do these more in your day, and then chip away. How can I get rid of that? How can I get rid of that? And you just refine this situation, because every day, and I promise you I can vouch for it, is that every day is motivating, and it can be. And I know there's external factors. I have so many issues. There's family issues, and there's just, I live in South Africa, and there's this dread, but you're the only one that's going to make it happen. So you can do it. Just focus on refining your day one day at a time, and focus where your motivation lies. And I promise you, if you're really into paper jets and you actually start blogging about paper jets and start sharing your knowledge about paper jets and try and save people time, you can save other people time on the internet, and then they start speaking to you. Oh, my, you know what? I actually learned the craziest tip with my paper jets. And then all of a sudden you have this communication of like-minded people. Guess what? That is the end. That is the end. You found your people, and now you are both sharing knowledge, and you're adding value with each other. You're learning from each other, and you've arrived. And just keep doing that forever. I can't ever imagine stopping doing this. I'm not aiming to end anyway. I'm here. I'm at the end. So yeah, Darshan, that's my advice: is just aim to refine your middle, because this is the best part.
Yeah, try to live in the moment, enjoy what you do. Great insights. It's been amazing talking to you, Rob. Do you want to share where people can go to follow you online for tag along on your journey?
Okay, so yeah, just big one. Yeah, robhope.com and robhope at Twitter. Yeah, I'm not asking for anyone to do anything or follow me. Just I hope you got some value from the session. And if you want to ask me anything, hello at robhope.com or at robhope on Twitter, and I'll share whatever you need.